It's time for the Daily Stand Up Podcast presented by Agile Dad with your host, Lee Henson. Without any further ado, let's get started.
Let's kick things off with something new and exciting. Well, I shouldn't say new, but definitely exciting. I recently, this past week, received an email from the one, the only, the legend, Mike Cohn, called Just Get It Done. And he starts off Agile teams place a high value on fully implementing new ideas, features, or functionality each iteration. Rather than being partially done with a large number of things, Agile teams seek to be really done with a smaller number. I was just having this conversation with a CEO of a very large home improvement company, and we were talking about Little's Law and how Little's Law talks about stop starting new things and start finishing the things that you've started, and how that impacts limiting WIP and how limiting WIP impacts other things. And it's just sort of this ripple effect where one thing cascades into the next, etc. So he challenges the question, but why? So he says, first, good products are made better with fast feedback. I definitely agree with this, and I preach it all the time. The faster you can get feedback, even if it's not a total product, even if it's just a smaller rendition of the product, an MVP, a prototype, a proof of concept, an idea, a sketch, a drawing, sign language, I don't know, come up with something, semaphore, right? If you have something that you can show somebody to get feedback, you're going to get a much better product in the end. He goes on to say, I was recently making sandwiches for my family. I decided to make ham and Swiss on rye, a classic that never goes out of style. I could have created all four sandwiches and made them all just as I like them, with spicy brown mustard, lettuce, and onions. Instead, though, I made mine, then called out for some fast feedback from the end users. I showed them what I made and said, more for each of you? The answer was a resounding no. Delaney wanted no mustard and no veggies, just mayo. Savannah asked for one like mine, plus mayo. Laura wanted Dijon in place of the spicy brown mustard, no accounting for taste. But I made the sandwiches based on the feedback and ended up with four very satisfied customers, including myself. That's an interesting thought. And I love the analogy of making custom orders for our sandwiches or at a restaurant. It just makes sense that we're going to do what's best. Second, finished features can be sold, unfinished features cannot. All projects represent an economic investment. Time and money are invested in developing functionality. An organization cannot begin regaining its investment by delivering partially developed features. A product with 10 half done features can be thought of as inventory that sits on a warehouse floor. That inventory cannot be sold until each feature is complete. Facts. In contrast, a product with 5 finished features is sellable. It can begin earning money back against the initial investment. Once again, wise advice. I can't tell you how many times I go into organizations and they're struggling because they're trying to get every feature done instead of just releasing with what they have, capitalizing and gaining and recouping some of the costs, and then pressing forward with whatever else is remaining. Finally, he says, partial progress is notoriously hard to estimate. This year, at their conference at Mountain Goat Software, or I shouldn't say at the conference, at the company, Mountain Goat Software, they doubled down on their commitment to figuring out and using OKRs. For a few of the quarterly OKRs, the tool we were using asked us to track progress as perfect done. Yikes. I hate that, and I think he does too. Sure enough, he says, I hate it. My team laughs when I enter values like 73.52% done. I laughed that an otherwise good tool lets me enter such a precisely ridiculously false value. I don't like tracking partial percentages because it gives false hope. Every week I see those sliders move a little closer to 100. Eventually I hit 90 and I think that's great. It's almost done. A week later, it's at 91 or still at 90. Why? Because the size of the problem grew at the same rate as the progress that someone made to work on it. In Agile, we should avoid this heartache by making sure that at the end of each iteration, all work is either in a not started column or done column. We shouldn't have things left in progress. We shouldn't be carrying things over from one sprint to another. And I had this conversation with my teams and with people that I train all the time. I am a big stickler. I would rather you take on less work than potentially carry anything over that's undone work. People are really good at knowing when we haven't started something. We're pretty good at knowing when we're done with something. We're really horrible for all those states in between. One way to help team members remember that one done is better than many half done is to set WIP limits, a limit on your work in progress. WIP, WIP, defines how many items can be simultaneously worked on in the same state at a time. For example, a team may decide that no more than 2 product backlog items can be coded concurrently. In that case, the team will not be allowed to begin coding a third until one of the previous 2 has been done. Setting a WIP limit so you can get items to done every single sprint is a solid way to succeed with Agile. Mike, you did it again. You hit this one out of the park, my friend. It's so true. And this has been a topic that I've been harping on now for quite some time. It's just so incredibly important for us to honor and respect WIP limits, both at the team level, the individual level, and at the product or project level. What I'm finding is organizationally, sometimes leadership or product owners or stakeholders, they're not respecting WIP limits at that level. And as a result, what happens is we get too many things in flow, too many plates spinning at the same time, and we're unable to complete the work. So I hope that you've learned a little bit here. And if you want to learn more about WIP limits, let me know and I'll be happy to drop you a link to one of our previous webinars that we did. It was an hour-long webinar about the importance of limiting WIP. And I'd love to get that over to you so you can take a look at that and hear more on this topic. Until next time, stay healthy, stay well, and stay agile, my friends. Do take care.